What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Writers. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast. We're here. We're going to talk about Kamen Rider Gotchard, episode 37 today. I'm your host, Josh.
Try not to catch any more chemis on the way out to the parking lot.
It's not your time to talk yet. I haven't said who you are. That is Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
Pretty good, Josh.
Now you can say your dumb bit about parking lots.
No, it's too late now.
You ruined it.
Isn't it 27 anyway? Shouldn't I have made this joke 10 episodes ago, or is it 37?
Oh, you're talking about the Clerks thing. Is that what?
Yeah.
I didn't actually hear your full parking lot statement. It's 37, I think, right? 37 in a row? I think it's 37. Yeah.
I made the joke and then panicked, and then I couldn't remember which one it was. But that's fine. Josh, I have a very important question for you.
It is 37. I had to confirm it is 37.
Okay.
We're real quick though about that. So if you all don't know, you're listening out there and you're, I don't know, 15. Let me go ahead and corrupt you for a moment. There was a movie called Clerks that Kevin Smith made, and it's very good. And it's
you might know Kevin Smith. Wait. So if you're young, you might know Kevin Smith from such jams as Tusk or Yoga Hosers, or one of any other 1,000 shitty movies that are out there.
I found out that's a whole side conversation to our side conversation, but we'll circle back to Kevin Smith. But there's this movie called Clerks, and it is set in a convenience store, and there is a bit in that movie where the clerk of the convenience store finds out that his girlfriend had performed fellatio on 37 different men, and he freaks out about it. And later he tells someone else like 37, and then they say in a row, and it's a very funny bit in the movie. But I was explaining that to my wife, who I don't think had seen Clerks, because she said 37. So she said the number 37, and I said in a row, and then I had to explain that it was about sucking dick, and it was from a movie. And I felt like the biggest pariah ever.
As you should.
Like, it was like, no, this is supposed to be common knowledge. Like this is a thing. I swear I'm not a freak crazy person who just knows these things.
Or you might be. But
that might be. Did you know, speaking of Kevin Smith, random aside, I found this out yesterday. Did you know that Kevin Smith put out an NFT movie?
I did.
How did that work? How does that work?
Well, apparently you had to buy the NFT, and he would send you the movie, or like the movie was the NFT or something like that.
Yeah, the movie was the NFT. But can I go see that movie now?
Or... Yeah, because inevitably someone leaked it online.
Okay, got it. But the only way to see that movie was by buying the NFT of that film.
Correct. And basically it's like one of those movies that are like 3 stories in one. Like it's not like a movie. It's
an
like 3
anthology.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you for the word. It's an anthology about this weird blob face looking guy, Kilroy, which is like, to go back even farther than the Clerks movie, like I think it's a World War II thing where people write Kilroy was here with this little face with the big nose looking over the wall.
Yep.
So you try to make that into a horror movie, but none of the stories in the anthology make sense, and he changes the rules for the way it works between every story. So people are like, it's literally his worst, like the worst film he's ever made. Blah, blah,
blah. I couldn't believe. So my bar is very low for Kevin Smith. I like him. I've liked his work in the past, but like he's not a smart filmmaker. Let's say he makes dumb stoner movies. And so my bar was already pretty low. And when I found out last night that he made an NFT movie, it was like, wow, I didn't know that my bar could be lowered. But here we are. It's even worse, my opinion now. I haven't seen any of the later works of Kevin Smith. I haven't seen Tusk, Yoga Hosers, really anything past that. I haven't seen any of it. But
Tusk and Red State were the last 2 I saw.
I liked Red State. Red State was pretty good.
Red State was okay. Tusk I liked for the absurdity of it. And I even made my mom watch it because she loves Justin Long.
Perfect.
So I watched Tusk, and I was like, it was one of those, it's like a body horror movie, basically, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those movies that made me feel weird on the inside after I watched it. So I was like, okay, I feel like I'm stuck in this thing. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't like this. So I was telling my mom about it, and I showed her the trailer, which shows none of the really
gory stuff. Yeah.
Or it's not even really gory. It's just weird. But it hides the tit titulature titulature titular. How you say it?
Titular. Titular.
Titular. Yeah, it hides the titular tusk of the movie title in the trailer. So I was like, you should watch this with me. So I made her watch. So she watched the trailer, and it's just basically Justin Long acting stupid. And she's like, ha ha ha, this looks like a good Justin comedy long
I
movie.
love that funny boy Justin Long.
Yeah. So I made her watch it, and she didn't like it at all. She felt uncomfortable, and she's like, "This is too weird," and she had
Yeah.
nightmares about it. And that made me laugh a little bit.
Your poor mom. Like you knew going in that was gonna happen.
Yeah,
You've
I mean, she she enabled
she
the
deserved
situation.
it.
She enabled the issue, and this is where it went to.
That's what she gets for liking Justin Long. That's my opinion.
Yeah, there you go.
Kevin Smith is making a movie this year called The 430 Movie.
Is that like 420
Uh,
Blaze at +10?
it's set in the summer of '86. The movie follows three teenagers who spend their weekend sneaking into their local movie theater. Which, when one of the teens invites the girl of his dreams to come along, the group must learn lessons about life and love. That sounds like a very like back to basics
Yeah, I was gonna
Kevin
say this
Smith
sounds.
movie. Yeah.
This is his wheelhouse. It's probably his childhood. I would assume his daughter's acting in it, if not his wife as well.
Yep, Harley Quinn Smith is in it. Yep, for
Sure.
sure. Uh, Method Man is also in it. Jason Lee is in it. Yep, it's all of his friends. Justin Long's in this one too. Your mom's gonna love it.
It might be a good movie.
Justin Long is in this playing a character named Stank. That sounds great. I should check out the later works of Kevin Smith. I used to be a huge so I'm classically a big podcast fan. Um and even more than Kevin Smith movies, I used to love Kevin Smith's podcast. Um but then he got really into marijuana and it became pretty unlistenable. And I have
He,
nothing against people getting really into marijuana, but it doesn't make for a great podcast.
yeah,
I will
because
say.
he was just like, listen to me smoke. Here's funny burnout stories. Ha ha
Yes.
ha. But him and Giant Bombcast would be the two people groups, whatever, that motivated me into doing such things as podcasting. So I always owe him one, I suppose. And when Smodcast, which was like his podcast network when that used to be a thing, like
Yep.
podcast networks in general, he did an ad. He was like, "Hey, we're just started launching this thing. I'll do ad reads for you if you want to buy time. You just pay me a discounted rate, obviously, and I'll do an ad for you." So I have an ad for one of my old podcasts of Kevin Smith reading it and talking to his wife about it.
Nice. That's
So
awesome.
it's one of my favorite memories ever, or like one of my like keeper things that I can have of like him doing an ad read about me, basically.
Yeah.
And it was funny because prefaced with, I'm not much more mature now, but my humor range at like 28 was, very childlike and very bro jokey, we'll call it. So Kevin Smith's wife is, I think, the hardcore feminist, basically. I don't know if
Sure.
that's like a bad way to frame. I don't know. Is it like a bad thing to call somebody?
It's probably not like the most positive way to put that, but okay.
Okay. Well, then, I don't know. Whatever word I mean there, put that there.
Maybe just is a feminist.
Okay. So she is a feminist and he is a burnout stoner.
Uh-huh.
So they had their own podcast together. So they would tell stories and talk. And it was just like, it was one of those things where when you listen to both of them talk to each other about things, it's a very weird mix of like, I guess these two work, but it seems like you can't have conversations with each other in the same vein. Like,
Yeah.
it was just a weird thing. So basically, our ad, whatever, was full of like dick jokes, basically, like to put it simply. And he was laughing hysterically, and she was like, "I don't even understand why this is funny." So it was just hilarious. And the one line was like, one of the jokes specifically was, "We'll help you with life problems." So like, it sounds absurd now. I'm still gonna
I'm
say it
so
anyway. I
excited to
don't
hear
care.
this. I'm so excited.
So because we were young, and like, if you're a young gentleman growing up, there's always the time where like you're learning how things work downstairs, and sometimes things just pop up when you don't want it to. So I had a joke in there about like one of like the old, at least when we were growing up, one of the old school jokes was like, you never wear sweatpants in high school because you walk up to the blackboard and like your brain just goes places while you're doing things and you embarrass yourself, whatever. So I made a joke about it and I was like, we'll teach you how to fix this problem. Just as like a random throwaway joke of like, I want to make it stupid for Kevin Smith. And he said like, wow, where were these guys when I was growing up? This sounds fantastic. And I felt like at that point I super looked up to him and he was like an idol kind of person. And I was like, wow, I made my idol laugh. Like this is fucking fantastic.
That's awesome. Also, like that's very in his wheelhouse, right? Like we were just talking about a movie he made about where he made a joke about dicks. So like,
I
yeah,
knew
if
I
you
was
were,
pandering to. It was just
yeah,
it was in the right wheelhouse. I was like, because like I assumed like it would be on him and like Jay Muses, like if you know like Jay and Silent Bob, it's those two. Like I assumed it'd be those two acting stupid, and then I felt bad that it was his wife because I knew she was super into like everyone's rights and stuff way before a lot of other people started catching the trends and treating everyone more like normal, like humans together and everything. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be awkward, and like it kind of felt awkward of like him thinking it was the funniest thing ever, and her being like, this dude sounds like a fucking idiot, kind of thing.
no, she just had to play the straight man. You know, it worked. Every comedy duo needs a straight man.
I
Uh,
appreciate you trying to back me up now.
Kevin had Scott Mosier on his main podcast. He was the straight man to Jason Mewes when they podcasted together, and then on the show with his wife, the wife was the straight man. You know, it always works.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah, with you and I, we're both straight men.
Hey,
No, I don't really know how that dynamic works with us, but that in those podcasts, that's how that's how it breaks down. Uh, Toby, we have an email this week. Let's jump
I was
over.
gonna say, speaking of podcasts, let's start this one. This is out of control.
Uh, Indeed, it is. We have an email address, cast at commonwritersucks.com. Once again, cast at commonwritersucks.com. You can find that link down in the description as well if you would like to send us an email. And we'd love to hear from you. This week, we got an email from our friend Shade. Shade is writing in with lots of information here. Shade says, hello, everyone. Some bad things happened in today's episode. If Kekero was here, he would be super excited about all this. Hodoro is a true common writer now. Frog noises. So obviously we'll get into that when we get into the episode. But yes, this would be a thing that would make Kekara quite happy, I think, today. Shade highlights some of the things that are interesting from the translated producers blog for this episode. I liked this first one, talking about how they film the Hopper One scenes, because we've joked about this a little bit, where clearly it's like someone's grabbing onto Hopper One's tail and just kind of moving him around a little bit. So one of the ways they do that is by grabbing onto his tail and moving him around. And there's a funny picture where Hodoro has his backpack on, Hopper One is sticking out of his backpack, and then there's just a man on set with his hand through a hole in the bottom of the backpack, moving Hopper One around. So he's like just out of frame, but he's like crouched behind Hodoro with his hand up the backpack, controlling Hopper One. It's a very,
it
very good photo.
it's like Jim Henson's workshop, just
Yeah.
over in Japan.
Well, Shade tells us from the producer blog that it is apparently the director himself is controlling Hopper One here. Director Tasaki is doing it in this photo, which I find especially funny. And another way that they control Hopper One is they uh, tie piano wire to Hopper One to make him bounce. So they can then do it without like a hand in the scene, because the piano wire is very thin and hard to see on the camera, and probably easy to remove as well if it is visible. So those are the ways in which they make Hopper One bounce around to himself.
Yeah, like this one specifically, this episode had a lot of Hopper on his own running around, and it was kind of hard to tell if it was all just CG or they had a good like track kind of thing for him to be on to like make him jump long distances because it all looks super smooth. I was trying to figure out like how much magic was there or how much was practical kind of thing.
It's all magic, baby. It's all magic. It sounds like they're mostly practical for what they're talking about here.
I can
Uh,
respect that.
we also got to see Hopper One interacting with a dog, getting licked by a dog. Apparently, they let Hopper 1 stay at the dog owner's home for a few days so the dog wouldn't get scared during filming. So the dog would get used to Hopper 1, which is amazing. Uh, and then Shade also points out that Hopper 1's voice actress had some thoughts on the character previously to this episode. So the Hopper 1 is voiced by Masato Fukuen. She voices Hopper 1 and Crosshopper. And she said during an interview that took place just before the recording of episode 35, they asked her, "Do you have any hopes for Hopper 1 in the future?" And her answer was, "I don't want him to turn evil." Well, bummer for you. So that's some good little gems there from the producer blog. Uh, Shade also then goes on to say, last time you guys talked about Saban's Masked Rider, and I'd like to talk more about it because it's a very interesting topic. Everybody knows that the reason why Masked Rider failed is because it kind of sucked, but another big reason why it never escaped Power Rangers Shadow is because Kamen Rider was on a series hiatus in the 90s. The show that Masked Rider adapted was Kamen Rider Black RX, which ran from 88 to 89. By the time Masked Rider Black RX's footage was already half a decade old, so they ended up having to really scrape the bottom of the barrel for footage. In fact, they scraped off so much that they had to look for footage in a different barrel because Masked Rider also contains footage from Kamen Rider ZO from 93 and Kamen Rider J from 1994, those two films. A non-toku YouTuber by the name of Hugbees did a great and hilarious video about Masked Rider, and I suggest you guys watch it. Oh, and by the way, the 90s Kamen Rider films are really good. You guys should totally check them out sometimes. So, yeah, there's another reason that they were adapting a show that wasn't actively having new shows come out. So, Masked Rider was really doomed from the start, really at that point, because at least they had a forward idea with Power Rangers because they could just adapt the next Sentai, and they did that for many, many, many years. But at the time of Masked Rider being adapted for American audiences, there weren't even new seasons of Kamen Rider being made, which is hilarious, and I had forgotten that aspect of it. Just a really, really weird project from the beginning. And then Shade says, another topic I'd like to talk about is the Power Rangers adjacent shows you guys mentioned, like VR Troopers, Beetleborgs, and their origins. When the Kamen Rider franchise was growing weaker during the late 80s and eventually went on hiatus in the 90s, the young franchise that grew in Kamen Rider's place were the Metal Heroes. VR Troopers was actually a mash-up of 3 different Metal Hero shows, and Beetleborgs was an adaptation of 2 seasons, albeit those two are connected. To say that these shows were just as popular and iconic as Kamen Rider today is not an understatement. In a way, the Metal Heroes were somewhat of a prototype of modern Kamen Rider. They're all colorful and unique, transforming heroes with different themes, like the Kamen Riders we see today. Sadly, when Kamen Rider came back in the 2000s, the Metal Heroes franchise kinda died too. Toei even tried to revive the franchise in the 2010s by doing crossovers with Kamen Rider and Sentai, but to no avail. Till today, the Metal Heroes franchise lies dormant. Will they come back in the future? Damn, I sure hope at some point. And that that little explanation there of Metal Heroes, it definitely brought back up in me that I've wanted to check out Metal Heroes for a long time because they look super cool. Obviously, VR Troopers pulling from it. I love that look. That's super iconic to me, even though I haven't actually seen those series because of VR Troopers. I really love the design of Metal Heroes, and I've meant to watch them for a long time. So because of Shade's email, Shade's costing me money. I ordered Space Sheriff Gavan, which is the first Metal Hero series on Blu-ray, literally as I read this email because I was like, you know what, I'm finally going to do it. So coming in the mail, Shade, because of you, is a Blu-ray of the first Metal Heroes series. So I will check it out, and I'm sure I'll talk about it on a future podcast here.
You probably could have said this for free, right? Like you didn't actually have to buy something.
Yeah, but now I get to have the thing and put it on a shelf.
Oh, okay.
I have a cool media shelf in my basement where I get
It's
to put
about
all
to
my.
get a little bit cooler, Josh.
It's about to get a little bit cooler because it's gonna have some Metal Heroes on it. um, also I'd have to wait for a seed. That takes forever, as you know. And who's who's downloading Blu-ray copies of Space Sheriff Gavan these days? Certainly, probably not more than 2 people.
Better hope they have good internet.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm excited because like I said, I really, really do love the look of Metal Heroes, and when you when you get into tokusatsu, eventually, like you start looking at other things that are in the tokusatsu realm that aren't just Super Sentai and aren't just Kamen Rider, and Metal Heroes is like the third tier, basically. It's like obviously not as huge now, as those big two, but like it's had a ton of different series, and there's a lot of stuff out there, and it's like the next thing basically to look into, outside of stuff like Godzilla and stuff like that. But yeah, Space Sheriff Gavan is the first one. All right. So Shade, thank you very much for that email. Once again, you can send in those emails to cast@commonwritersucks.com. We'd love to hear from you over there, cast@commonwritersucks.com. And of course, Toby, we also have a Patreon.
Wow, we have a
Uh,
Patreon?
We do have a Patreon. Let me tell you all about it. It's patreon.com/the comment writers. If you want to check that out, for just $3 a month, you get access to the Patreon. And with the Patreon, you get access to our Discord where you can hang out and chat with us all week long. And you get access to all of our bonus content that we put out, which, to be a little braggy here, is a lot, Toby. We are
That's true. There's things there's infinite things. Like by the time you finish watching the things, there'll be more things. It's never
exactly.
stopping.
Yeah, the things keep coming and they don't stop coming, as the seminal band Smash Mouth said one time. So we watch we watch Toku every single week and post it on the Patreon for you to watch along with us. It's kind of like Mystery Science Theater, but for Tokusatsu. Right now we are watching Boon Boomjer as the episodes come out, and we are just now finishing up Kamen Rider Xaid. And of course, we have picked our next season of Kamen Rider to watch. Hopefully you've checked out the spinning of the big wheel video. But I can go ahead and tell you now, since it's been a week, hopefully you've had a chance to watch it. Kamen Rider O's is going to be our next series. So make sure you get signed up to the Patreon so you can watch Kamen Rider O's with us along from the beginning. It's going to be super, super fun. So once again, patreon.com/the comment writers to check that out. Just $3 a month. Toby, are you ready to cry?
No, but I'm ready to laugh even more than I was earlier. So
You ready to
let's get this train rolling.
Are you ready to shed some tears, because this is quite the episode that we had here.
This is one of the funniest episodes that I remember watching with you.
Okay.
This is this season's. Hey, remember 10 years ago this story? Between last week's and this week, I will never forget all the dumb things that happened in this episode and between the last one and this one. I just laugh and laugh and laugh.
You're saying this is the Xaid Christmas episode
This
of
is
Gotchard?
yes, this is Gotchard's Xaid Christmas episode where Poppy both became Poppy Claus and sang Jingle Poppy or Poppy Bells, whatever it was, slash the coroner getting murdered on Christmas. This is just as good in both ways.
Now, as you're saying that, I want to point out that our navigator in our Discord did say, I think yesterday, that watching this episode made her legitimately cry.
I missed that, so that's
just to add that juxtaposition here.
I
You
think
think it's the
I
funniest episode you've ever
listen.
seen.
I
She
think we're all
literally
aware that I'm a
cried.
monster. We all know I'm a monster. You all heard my advertising earlier. I don't know words good sometimes. I'm a big idiot. It's fine.
Well, in this episode, and to set the tone for this episode, last time around, of course, Hodoro killed Skibo, which you and I did find quite funny. And I, not to say, yeah, I also found this episode, this one we're watching here today, to be funny. I found it to be effective. It was quite good, but I also found it to be funny. Somehow it was both like it worked on me on the level they wanted, but then it also made me laugh really hard too. But
listen,
Hodoro killed
listen.
Skibo.
What when like from the jump, like it starts as like a doctor procedural drama, and they're basically like rolling dead Skibo in on a gurney, like his whited out lifeless body. They're like, "Oh, we have to get him in here, a stat," and they're running down a hallway like they're filming, kicking down the doors together, and like they they were hamming it up a lot for a freaking dead skateboard,
They
and then
certainly did.
he was really dead, and then I was like, "Holy shit, he actually died."
Bro's dead. Yeah. I think they'll get to. I think they're gonna bring these guys back because so in this opening scene, the Doctor Kyoka comes in. She does a little scan with her iPad, and she says that basically she sees like remnants of this like special mutation, special transmutation that Gigas performed that makes it so that they can't basically transmute again. They kind of describe it as Skibo is sort of like locked in stasis, kind of. So like dead, kind of, but like also they leave the door open to, but he's still
For
in
freaking
there.
bullshit. Yeah, they're leaving the
Yeah.
door open for bullshit.
But Hodoro is full on mourning Skibo as if he is dead. Hodoro is nearly irreconcilable here. he's he's gonna go home and he's gonna mourn Toby. And Hopper One wants to play, but Hodoro says now is not the time and zips him up in the backpack so he can leave.
I was hoping Hopper would hate him. Like I was hoping Hopper would be pissed. Like obviously we don't know what Hopper's saying when he's chirping and dancing around, but I was hoping it was like a parent scolding.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh my god, you killed my friend," instead of, "Hey, let's go pal around somewhere."
Because we do know that Hopper One, like he's sentient. He knows what's going on around him. He has to know that Skibo's dead. So did he just really hate Skibo? And he's just like, yeah, fuck that guy. He's dead. Let's party. Like, what's going on in Hopper One's mind that he's like, this is the time that I'm going to jump out and start yelling. Like, let's go.
I thought it was absurd when Hopper started like Hopper's big day out.
Yes.
I know Hodoro was in mourning and sad and maybe not paying the best attention, but I feel like Hopper has some weight to him. And like Hopper full blown just jumped out of his backpack and ran away. And I feel like you would feel like if I had my dog in a backpack and my dog jumped out, I would feel the 20 pounds push down the backpack and leap out.
Yeah.
And I feel like Hopper would have did the same thing. So Hodoro's extra shitty for that.
Agree.
Like this whole episode is just Hodoro really being a dick about a lot of things, to be honest with you.
I think you and I have talked about Hopper One's weight before, and that you'd definitely be able to tell if he was or was not in your backpack. And this one especially, because I'm pretty sure when he looks in the backpack looking for Hopper One, there's literally nothing else in the backpack except for the missing Hopper One,
Yeah,
where he would
it's
have
like
been.
his crate. It's his
Yeah,
travel crate. Like how wouldn't you
exactly.
know like how would see that's bad pet ownership. This is what I'm
I
talking
agree.
about. That's why this episode is just ridiculous. The whole thing was hilarious and ridiculous and amazing.
The second that Hodoro zipped up Hopper One and was like, "I'm not gonna play with you right now. Now's not the time." I knew from that moment that Hopper was gonna die. It was like so clear, like, oh, they're doing that because something bad's gonna happen to Hopper. I get it now. So yes, of course, Hodoro heads home and Hopper escapes the backpack. Basically, Hopper One here in this episode, like you said, he has his big day out. He is on a mission to find the golden alchemy flower from the fairy tale that we heard recently. He's going to go find that because if you make the spice from the flower, then everyone will eat it, be happy. And Hopper One wants everyone to be happy, especially Hodoro. So he's going to look for the flower to make Hodoro happy.
I
It's
do have
very cute.
I was actually hoping that there would be more of Hopper's big day out. Like once he
Yeah.
started running around, like we talked about the dog training earlier. Like he had a moment with a dog. He was roaming around the streets. He got water thrown on him from outside the one restaurant or wherever it was. I was truly hoping this would be like a Hopper centric episode
Yeah, me too.
where they just made him like 20 minutes of throwing this piece of plastic around and seeing what happens.
Yeah, because it's like it's very different than a regular Kamen Rider series, but like we're all invested enough in Hopper at that point. It would have played fine. I would have been okay with it. And the stuff that he did get up to was like pretty funny. I liked the stuff, and then getting water thrown on him and like just bebopping around town was pretty good. So yeah, I kind of wish we had a little bit more of that. because it would have been nice. And imagine if they'd done that for like a full episode and then did all the stuff at the end. Where, like if they had like really like, man, isn't Hopper cool? Isn't he fun? Isn't he just such a cool, neat guy? And then they turn him into a amalgam and kill him. That'd be great. Twist that knife. Nonetheless, Hopper does go on these misadventures, and Hodoro ends up back at Kitchen Ichinose. And I thought it was cool. His mom basically instantly knows something's wrong. He's sitting there, he doesn't say anything, but she instantly picks up that like, oh, something's wrong with my boy, and she makes him some pancakes just like she used to, which was very cute.
Like just like she used to about his missing dad.
Yes.
Let's be specific with what this meal represents. I didn't really think about it until today. Where like obviously she knows he's upset and she's like, I can see you're really down and out and you're having problems. And and make you your favorite breakfast so you feel better. But imagine if he actually wanted to talk to his mom about what was wrong. Like, think about the conversation right now specifically. It would be, Mom, I had a skateboard that I accidentally killed, and now I'm sad. Like, how do you like? She would think he's on drugs. She would
Yeah,
be like,
Hodoro,
"Honey,
you're on drugs.
well, I don't know if you're drinking now, son, or if you're smoking the wacky tobacco with your friends, or like those kids can't come over anymore for sure because now
You
you're telling me that you're crying about a sentient skateboard, which doesn't sound real. Like, what is this?"
you got to stop hanging out with that Kudo. She's a bad influence, honey. Yeah. He's telling her about the dead skateboard, and then like all of a sudden, like that he realizes Hopper's gone. He's like, and my grasshopper, and he just runs out the door.
That's when she pulls Kudo aside and like maybe not even the uh not the you're a bad influence on my son talk, but even if it's a talk of like, listen, my son's up to some shit. I need you to step in here. Like, keep your eye on him. Like, tell me what he's doing. Is he huffing glue? Is this skateboard really a thing? Does he have different friends I don't know about now? Like, what the hell is actually happening here?
she she pulls Sabi Maru aside, and she's like, "Listen, what when kids say skateboard, what's that code for these days? What is a dead skateboard? Is that a sexual maneuver? What's happening?" Uh, the dad sighting. So we see another image of the family. The dad's face is once again blocked out, and I'm still not sure whether they're presenting that again because it'll be a reveal or simply because they don't want to cast a father. I don't know. I still can't decide what's happening with this dad thing.
I thought his drawing of his dad is very childlike drawing of. I know Hodoro's also Daybreak, but his drawing of his dad looks very Daybreaky.
I thought so too. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah, it looks super Daybreak. Maybe Hodoro is his own dad then? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe he laid the egg in himself.
Holy crap. Hodoro comes back from the future as Daybreak, lays with what will become his mother, puts the egg inside himself, thus creating the time splitters time loop that needed to happen.
And the other thing I was thinking about today with this fine episode of no crying, only laughter. Uh, how long has the egg been in him?
Inconclusive.
Okay, was it? Because I was thinking about that today too. Where like, has it been in since he was a little kid and first befriended Hopper, and Hopper was like ignoring our usual joke of like Hopper knocked up Hodoro. Like, was his friendship with Hopper the beginning where the egg started growing? Like him and Hopper made a deal. Like, I'll help you when I get older. Like, has the egg been brewing for 15 years? Is the egg brand new? I need a timeline on the egg now.
Yeah, I would guess the egg has been there from either birth or very young. And I'm gonna guess this show is completely unpredictable. I feel like in terms of plot, but my guess is gonna be that his dad had something to do with putting the egg inside of him for some reason, and it happened when he was super super young, like almost in a Naruto scenario where like, oh god, I had to get the like fox spirit inside me right as I was being birthed or something to save the planet or whatever. Like I
Yeah,
think it'll be something like that.
at this point, I think even though it's unpredictable, I think that's technically the most predictable outcome we could have. Like, he didn't remember Hopper at first because like half like timeline's blocked out, blah blah blah. but that seems like a real reason of why, like, they both block out his dad. Like, maybe his mom's in on it of like, "Yeah, we had to hide your dad because we gave you the power to save the world, and we couldn't keep you couldn't remember him, or else you would go find him and ruin stuff," or something along those lines.
Also, the faces of his dad that have been blocked out so far appear to only be blocked out, like, for the camera, because they're covered with, like, a glare, or they're covered over with, like, I guess the first one was, like, a card over the photo, but, like, in ways in which it appears, like, temporary and happenstance, and less of a, "I'm intentionally hiding my husband's face from my son," you know? Um, so
Yeah,
I've always assumed up until this point that, like, it's more of a, we don't want the audience to know, and less of, I don't want Hodoro to know.
I always assumed it was I didn't want Hodoro to know until you just explained this to me now. That does make more sense because if she's saying, "Oh yeah, you remember your dad? This is when we had pancakes. This is when you were sad."
Right.
Like I would assume from both sides. I would assume she just didn't like white out his face and just leave that picture there. And
Yeah.
I would assume that Hodoro, even in his naiveness, wouldn't just be like, "Man, so my dad just doesn't have a face, huh?" And never would have asked more questions about that. So I guess but it does make more sense. They're just playing coy with us, but the people in the show can see the actual picture.
I want I want, Hodoro at some point to be, like, talking to Kudo, be like, just like, how some dads just don't have faces? She'd be like, "Wait, what?" "Yeah, my mom explained it, some dads just don't have faces."
She always called him an egghead. I didn't realize it was literal.
Oh, man. Well, Hodoro at this point realizes that Hopper 1 is gone. He runs away, to go hunt him down. He's just, like, wandering the park and wandering the streets being like, "Hopper, Hopper, where are you?" With really nowhere to go. But, Toby, meanwhile, the, Ant Trooper Malgum is rampaging. Gigas has sent him out really without much fanfare. There's just a Malgum in the streets. And Kudo decides they're going to handle this one alone without Hodoro because she knows that he's still feeling a little sad from his Skibo murder. Then, of course, we also get a little scene over with Gigist and the Abyssalis sisters. And this is kind of an interesting one because we hadn't really seen them interact too much with him, really. But Clotho basically wants to fight. She is questioning whether a Malgum is going to do it. Basically, just a Chemi is going to handle things on their own. And Gigas basically says, like, it doesn't really matter. What matters is the Chemi that's inside Hodoro. And then he explains a bit more about the egg Chemi. He says that egg inside of Hodoro is the reason that he can, like, transmute and reshape his body like he can as a Kamen Rider, and how he can kind of morph to all these different forms. And then we get a little montage of all the ways that he can do that. And then he's done that so many times, and it's made the egg so connected to him and kind of like a part of his being. That's why Gigist can't extract the egg out.
We They even said
So,
like specifically it was tied to his quote unquote professional driver usage. Like
right.
that's tied to like all that stuff. So I guess it makes I don't know. Like maybe that's why he could become a common rider even though he wasn't supposed to and all that
It
shit
sounded
from
like
way
that.
back in the beginning. He's
Yeah.
just like deep down tied. Kind of like how M was in X-Aid.
Yep.
He had the virus inside him.
That seemed to be what they were indicating here, was that the driver compatibility and him being so good at it was coming from the egg. Yeah. And Gigas basically explains that his goal is to turn Hodoro to the dark side so he can get the egg out of Hodoro at that point, kind of drive the egg to the surface.
I appreciated that Gigas confirmed for me that Goldman was at least the tiniest baby metal's father for real because
Yes.
he said like you miss your parent, I understand that, or something like that. And then the way he blew her off and the dirty look she gave, they're all but set up all of the baby metals that they're definitely all turning at some point to fight with the good guys for sure at this point.
Yeah, this was a really important scene, I think, for that reason. Clotho, like, gets scolded basically for doubting Gigas. Like she's like, I don't think this will work, and he kind of yells at her about that. And we already know that she's having her doubts about Hodoro. And then we finally got the seed planted for Atropos because yeah, she gets like basically the verbal equivalent of swatted away here. Because yeah, he says that her feeling is a pale imitation of a soul, and she glares at him because of that. Um, yeah, it's a hardcore put down that he gives to her. So yeah, finally, all of the sisters have a reason for leaving at this point. So the scene is set for sure. Uh, Hodoro is then out searching for Hopper One, as we saw, but he ends up finding the Antrooper fight instead. So he comes in, he joins the fight to help out Kudo, but throughout this fight, he's hesitating. He doesn't want to kill Antrooper. Basically he's doing his like, but it's not the right thing. I don't want to kill anybody. I don't want to kill any chemis whole routine.
This is when I started laughing because I was like, either we're getting one of the dumb speeches that's going to solve this problem, or there's going to be more murder and he's just become more and more of a bad person. So then I just started laughing because then we have more murder.
I really liked sort of the thing that moved this along where the smart people show up. So Spanner and Minato show up and basically just like murk and Trooper. just just completely wipe him out finally that Hodoro was like not willing to do. And Minato says like, I'm sorry, but I prioritize the lives of my students over that of the chemis. Like, yeah,
I
hell yeah.
I was just laughing because like for all the bad moments here, like Spanner literally just murdered. Spanner literally just murdered one of Hodoro's quote unquote friends.
Yep.
So like that's like it's kind of a dick move. He's already having a bad day. Like this isn't going to help the situation.
But like in a beautiful way, like Spanner is the guy who gets things done, right? He's like he steps in when Hodoro isn't willing to, and he's like, "Fine, I'll do it. I'll kill the Kemi. It's okay. I'll do it." um, like obviously Hodoro is gonna be upset about it, but it was like the most in character Spanner thing to do ever. Like, Spanner showing up to that fight and being like, "Yes, I'm going to be killing some Kemis. Like, if that's what needs to be done, I'm going to do it." Also in the middle of this fight, Hopper One like gets knocked out of a tree. He's nearby. He gets knocked out of a tree, and then he sees the yellow flower. He thinks that's the golden flower he's been hunting for, and he plucks one. We find out he finally gets his little flower that he thinks he's trying to bring to Hodoro.
I was going to mention it before. I want to point out how stupid Hopper is.
He's a dumb dumb. Yeah.
Where like the whole story is like you have to climb the mountain and the tip top peaks and it's a secret legend. And he found like basically dandelions, like weeds. And
Yep.
he's like, this isn't what my buddy needs. I'll get him some weeds.
Yeah, Hopper's not a smart Kemi. We've known this the whole series, but this one especially, it was just like, yeah, you plucked the one thing about the story out that was useful to you, that the flower was like gold or yellow, and you ignored the rest of it, that it was up a mountain and all this stuff. But you found a dandelion, so here we go. It's rock and roll. All right. Um Spanner tries to suck Ant Trooper up into the Chemi card, and he actually is able to this time, but the card is all white, just like Skibo was all white. So clearly the same thing has happened to Ant Trooper here, and Ant Trooper appears to also be dead.
And then the laughter just kept going, Josh. Starting this point forward, the laughter just keeps going.
Well, the laughter ramps up again next because now we move on to Hopper One. Toby, Hopper One hops over after Hodoro is sad about Ant Trooper. Hodoro sees him and clearly like is pretty excited to see Hopper One and have him back. But just when he sees Hopper One, Gigist and the Abyssalis sisters show up on the other side of him, and basically they amalgamate Hopper One. So they turn him into amalgam, kind of consume him with all of his malice and stuff. And as he's like transforming, he briefly turns into Crosshopper, but then he goes full amalgam. And I think he looks really cool as amalgam. First of all, I really like the Hopper amalgam suit. I think it looks pretty great.
It's very like it could have been an actual Kamen Rider outfit. like more so like the Black Sun vibe.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it definitely like I mean he's a grasshopper, so it makes it a little bit easier. But he's definitely like a fancy new 2024 version of like the OG. Hey, we're actual grasshopper armored
Yeah.
people vibe.
Yeah, that I think I definitely agree with all that for sure. And he fights Hodoro. You know, he comes at Hodoro as attacking him, but clearly Hopper 1 is conflicted, like acting like his head hurts and acting like he can't really decide if this is what he wants to do or not. And Hodoro, of course, is like kind of refusing to fight. He doesn't henshin. He is mostly trying to like bear hug Hopper 1 to keep him from fighting instead of like fighting back really himself. And at some point, as this fight is kind of wrapping up, um, Hodoro just sort of like bears himself with his arms out and says like, "Hey, go ahead and strike me down." Basically, if it'll help with your pain, you can kill me. He's just like sacrificing himself to Hopper One. And interestingly, Hopper One hesitates, doesn't actually strike Hodoro. Clearly, is thinking about it and maybe deciding to not do so. But just then, a little boy runs into the scene to pick up a lost toy. Hopper turns, sees the little boy and his mom, and kind of heads for them. Clearly, has some bad intentions. Hodoro sees this, and Hodoro Toby is forced to henshin into the 10-liner form and kill Hopper One to save the
What a piece
boy
of
and his
shit
mother.
Hopper is. Or not Hopper. What a piece of shit Hodoro is. He murdered his best friend.
Yeah, he trained him right in the back.
Ugh.
um, I really, really enjoyed how they did the audio for this scene specifically. Like they do like isolated cries of Hopper, like of like little Hopper. Like it still sounds like little Hopper noises, not like scary amalgam noises. And like that's kind of the only thing you hear for a little while. So you can like it really hits home the agony of the dying Hopper. And then like it's all kind of just like muted sounds as Hodoro henshins. It's very much like the like I have to do this. I don't want to do this, but this is I have to do this to save these people. Um, so I think that they filmed it really well and shot it really well, and I think that it was very well done. But at the end of the day, you killed a plastic grasshopper, and that's pretty funny.
The the theatrics. We bookended it today. The ER episode of rushing Skibo in to try to save the white plastic
Yeah.
was an amazing start to this episode.
Yes.
The basically finale of this episode with Hopper turning into a whited out Hopper with yet a yellow flower on his
The
head
yellow
until
flower.
Hodoro realizes what the yellow flower was for, and then it turns white. Was like the icing on the cake. And
It
that's when I
was
started laughing again because I was like, A, they should sell this toy because this is actually a cool looking toy, like just pure whited out Hopper. But B, like the absurdity of what we're doing now with these skateboards and grasshoppers and all the other things. Like,
yeah.
what the fuck is even going on here?
It's so perfect because like I'm bought into the show and I'm watching this and I'm like, "Oh my god, Hopper, no." And then yeah, you take like half a step back and you're like, "This is asinine." Like all of this is so ridiculous. But like in the context of the show, it works. Like it gets it. Um I love when you and I watch the show and we have like the exact same thoughts because I also had the thought of like this would make it a hilarious toy and I really want an all white Hopper. Like I want that more than the regular Hopper. I want the all white dead version. Um, it'd look way cooler on my shelf, and also it's just funnier. Yeah, I'm with you there.
and then,
Uh,
when
then
then,
then it gets even crazier. So obviously Hodoro is very upset about this whole Hopper thing. He starts screaming. Basically, he's just kind of standing and screaming and wailing. And Giggist basically says like, "Oh hey, like I feel what you're feeling. I get it, but just like let it wash over you, essentially." And Hodoro amalgamates himself basically the same like kind of like black red turning into amalgam thing happens to him, but he turns into a giant egg instead. Just bloop and he's an egg, and then the egg teleports away to a different alleyway. I'm not sure exactly where it's at. And it starts raining on the egg And then we go inside the egg. Hodoro is still distraught. He's on his hands and his knees. He's crying about Hopper 1. He's just inconsolable, basically. And then he hears his name get called. We pan over, and it's the egg, the blue with orange arrows egg that we've seen on the Kamen Rider card, in the eggshell with him, talking to him. And then the episode ends.
Greatest episode of all time. This is one for the books. I'll be talking about this for years, unless next week it gets even more absurdity with the egg or more whited out action figures. At which point, this is the greatest trilogy of any media of all time.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I love the direction we've gone here with the dead chemis. it's it's really good stuff. Also, the egg inside Hodoro is silly in and of itself, like the fact that there's an egg chemi embedded him inside him, and that's sort of the crux of the story right now. But the fact that he then gets an eggshell around him while the egg that was inside him is in the eggshell with him, like it's just now there's like multiple eggs, kind of. It's great. I love it. No notes. Yeah, this show is bonkers.
Yeah, like
Uh,
the bad bonkers episodes, like all the legend stuff or the other stuff. This is not that. Like
no.
I'm sure it's easy to present as, at least from things that I've said more so than you, of like, we thought the other stuff was stupid, but you don't think this is stupid. And no, this is fantastic. This is the dumb slapstick absurdity that at least progressing the story. Like, if nothing else, like there was
Yeah.
story here. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And it just made me laugh and laugh. And that's even better.
And at least for me, it's a good dumb. Like it's like it's dumb that is, like you said, like progressing the story, grounded in the story. So like the things they're doing is ridiculous on the surface, like running a skateboard into the ER and basically them being like, "Sorry, he's dead," is a patently ridiculous act. But but they've presented it in the story in such a way that then also it has this like weird emotional core to it that like works. And, like it's this hilarious like two-layer thing that is really well done. At least for me, I like it. It's the perfect kind of dumb. I'm very very into it. Yeah, like this is like the height of Gotchard for me, when it can be silly and ridiculous and dumb in a way that like clearly it knows that it's being silly and ridiculous and dumb, but also like take itself very seriously in doing so. Like this is like the Wrestler G episode, right? Where,
Yeah, yeah.
where, like it's that all over again. Um, and yeah, I think this is one of the best ones. One of the best episodes for sure. I loved it very much. I'm excited to have this egg hatch and see what comes out. I hope that we have like a long extended talk with the egg inside the egg, and I hope that that egg is like Hopper's Yoda. I hope that it like
I feel like it's gonna be I feel like it's gonna
his
be his
dad.
dad. Yeah.
It's gonna be his dad, right?
I feel like there's no way it can't be. I just don't know, but like I feel like there's no way it can't be.
So while inside a giant eggshell, mourning the death of your grasshopper friend, your father presents himself to you as an egg who has been embedded in your body for your entire life. And in doing so compels you to stand up and fight back and crack the giant eggshell that you're within to go rejoin your friends and do what needs to be done. Uh yeah, that's great. I'm on board.
Let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going. Yeah, this episode's great. I really really enjoyed the whole thing. And I yeah, hope the next one's just as good. Uh I will say Commodore Gav has a lot to live up to now. There's a lot going on here now.
Oh yeah, the next show's fucked.
Yeah. Just cooked, just straight up cooked. All right. Well, that I think is going to wrap us up there for the discussion of Gotchard episode 37. Um, Toby, why don't you tell the people where they can find you on the internet?
On Twitter, it's at Life of Tobes, and on YouTube, it's Tobes Plays.
Right on. On Twitter, I am pretty decent Josh, and lots of other places as well. Blue Sky, I'm meek.lol, and I'm pretty on YouTube, I am pretty decent. So yeah, check those places out. Check Toby's YouTube channel out and his Twitter out. And yeah, check out our Patreon as well. Patreon.com/the comment writers. We'd love for you to sign up and join us on our shenanigans and join us in the Discord too. For just $3 a month. So go check that out. Send us in those emails, cast@commonwritersucks.com. And of course, watch the next episode of Kamen Rider Gotchard, episode 38, because when you do, then you can come back here next week, join us, and we will discuss. And hopefully it's just as ridiculous as this one was. But until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.